The airport buzzed with activity, travelers rushing, announcements blaring, and the hum of excitement mixed with exhaustion. Among the crowd stood a well-dressed man in his late 40s, a CEO of a successful tech company. He was used to the comforts of luxury, always flying first class, always treated with respect. Today, however, would be different. He had just boarded the plane, ready to settle into his usual VIP seat, a spacious, plush chair at the front. But as he reached his row, he stopped. Someone else was already sitting there. A middle-aged man, dressed simply in worn-out jeans and a faded jacket, looked up at him with an apologetic smile. "Excuse me," the CEO said, keeping his tone polite but firm. "I think you're in my seat." The man hesitated, then pulled out his boarding pass. "No, this is mine. Seat 1A. The CEO frowned. That was his seat. He had booked it months ago, paying extra for the privilege. He signaled a flight attendant, who quickly checked both tickets. Her face fell. "I'm sorry, sir," she said to the CEO. "There's been a mistake. Your reservation was cancelled. This gentleman has the correct ticket for 1A. The CEO's face burned with embarrassment. "Cancelled? How? He never cancelled it." He demanded an explanation, but the flight attendant could only apologize. The airline had overbooked, and due to a system error, his seat had been given away. The only available spot left was in economy. Murmurs spread among nearby passengers. Some glanced at him with pity, others with amusement. A CEO, used to the best, now being sent to the back of the plane. His pride stung, but he had no choice. With a stiff nod, he grabbed his bag and walked down the aisle, feeling every pair of eyes on him. As he squeezed into the cramped economy seat, frustration bubbled inside him. This had never happened before. Who was that man who took his seat? And why did the airline mess up his reservation? Little did he know, this unexpected twist would lead to something far bigger than a simple seating mix-up. Something that would change the way he saw everything. The flight took off, and the CEO sat stiffly, his mind racing. He tried to focus on his laptop, but the lack of space made it impossible. Annoyed, he glanced toward the front of the plane, where the other man now sat comfortably in his seat. Curiosity got the better of him. He signaled a passing flight attendant. "That man in 1A, who is he?" The attendant hesitated. "I'm not sure, sir. Just another passenger." But the CEO wasn't convinced. There was something about the man, the way he carried himself, the calmness in his eyes. He didn't look like someone who could afford first class, yet here he was. Halfway through the flight, the CEO decided to get up and stretch his legs. As he walked past the first-class cabin, he noticed the man wasn't lounging or enjoying expensive champagne. Instead, he was quietly reading a book, his expression thoughtful. Then, something unexpected happened. The man looked up, caught the CEO staring, and smiled. Not a smug or mocking smile, but a warm, genuine one. "Tough break, huh?" the man said. The CEO was taken aback. He hadn't expected conversation. "Yeah. Not how I planned this flight." The man nodded. "Life's funny like that. You think you've got everything figured out, then, boom, something changes." There was a wisdom in his words that made the CEO pause. Before he could respond, the seatbelt sign lit up as turbulence hit. The CEO had to return to his seat, but his mind stayed on that brief exchange. Who was this man? And why did a simple conversation leave him feeling different? Something told him this wasn't just about a seat. This was the beginning of something much deeper. The turbulence passed, but the CEO's mind remained unsettled. He couldn't shake the strange encounter with the man in his seat. There was something about him, something quietly powerful in the way he spoke, the way he carried himself without arrogance. As the flight continued, the CEO found himself stealing glances toward first class. The man wasn't indulging in the luxuries around him. No champagne, no fancy meals. Just that same book, a small notebook where he occasionally jotted things down, and a quiet, observant presence. Who reads in first class instead of enjoying the perks? The CEO thought. Then, another surprise. The man stood up and walked toward the back of the plane, toward the economy section. The CEO stiffened as the man stopped right beside his row. "Mind if I sit here for a bit?" the man asked, gesturing to the empty middle seat next to him. The CEO hesitated. "That seat's taken. Passenger just went to the restroom." The man nodded. "Then I'll stand. I wanted to talk to you." The CEO raised an eyebrow. "About what?" The man leaned slightly against the seat in front of them, lowering his voice. "I saw how you handled what happened back there. Most people in your position would have made a scene. You didn't." The CEO scoffed. "What, so you came to thank me for not yelling?" The man smiled. "No. I came because I think you're the kind of person who hates not understanding things. And right now, you don't understand why I'm in your seat." The CEO stared at him. The man was right, it was bothering him. Before he could respond, the passenger returned, reclaiming the middle seat. The man in the faded jacket simply nodded. "Another time, then." And with that, he walked back to first class. The mystery deepens. The rest of the flight passed in silence, but the CEO's curiosity burned. When the plane finally landed, he made sure to keep an eye on the man. To his surprise, the man didn't rush off. He waited patiently, helped an elderly woman with her bag, and even let a family with young children exit first. Small acts of kindness, things the CEO himself never bothered with. As they stepped into the terminal, the CEO finally approached him. "All right, who are you?" The man turned, amused. "Why does it matter?" "Because," the CEO said, "people don't just give up first-class seats to strangers. And they don't act like you." The man studied him for a long moment. Then, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a simple business card. No fancy title, no company logo. Just a name and a number. "Call me if you really want to know," he said. Then, with a small smile, he walked away, disappearing into the crowd. The CEO looked down at the card, his mind racing. This wasn't over. Not even close. The CEO stood frozen in the middle of the bustling airport, staring at the plain business card in his hand. No company name. No job title. Just a name, Rahul Kapoor, and a phone number scribbled in neat handwriting. Who is this guy? His pride still stung from losing his seat, but something deeper nagged at him. This wasn't just about a mix-up. There was a quiet confidence in the way Rahul carried himself, an unshakable calm that didn't match his simple appearance. The CEO slipped the card into his pocket and headed toward baggage claim, his mind racing. He could just forget about it. Go home, move on. But the curiosity was too strong. As he waited for his luggage, he pulled out his phone and hesitated. What am I even going to say? Before he could decide, his phone buzzed. An email notification from the airline, a formal apology for the booking error, and a voucher for a future first-class flight. Too little, too late. He clenched his jaw. Then, on impulse, he dialed the number on the card. It rang twice before a warm, familiar voice answered. I was wondering when you'd call. The CEO stiffened. How did you know it was me? A soft chuckle. Who else would be calling from an unlisted number at this hour? The CEO exhaled, suddenly feeling like he was the one being studied. Listen, I just want to know what happened back there. Why were you in my seat? A pause. Then, Rahul's voice grew serious. Meet me tomorrow. There's a small tea stall near the old railway station, Chaiwala Brothers. 7 a.m. Before the CEO could respond, the line went dead. The meeting at dawn. The next morning, the CEO arrived at the rundown tea stall, dressed in casual clothes to avoid drawing attention. The place was cramped, filled with taxi drivers and office workers grabbing their morning chai. And there, sitting in the corner on a plastic stool, was Rahul. He looked up and gestured for the CEO to join him. "You came," Rahul said, sliding a steaming clay cup toward him. "Try it. Best chai in the city." The CEO frowned but took a sip. The flavor was rich, spiced, surprisingly good. "All right," he said, setting the cup down. "No more games. Who are you? And why were you in my seat?" Rahul leaned back, studying him. "What if I told you it wasn't an accident?" The CEO's grip tightened on the cup. "What?" "The airline didn't make a mistake," Rahul continued. "I requested that seat. Specifically, the one you booked." A cold wave of anger rushed through the CEO. "You what? You had no right." Rahul held up a hand. "I needed to meet you. And I knew you'd never agree to talk otherwise." The CEO's mind spun. "This is insane. You don't even know me." Rahul's eyes locked onto his. "I know exactly who you are. You're the man who fired 300 employees last month to cut costs while buying a third yacht. The man who hasn't spoken to his sister in 5 years because of a business dispute. The man who always gets what he wants, until yesterday." The CEO's breath caught. How did this stranger know these things? Rahul's voice softened. "I didn't take your seat to humiliate you. I took it because I needed you to feel what it's like to lose something you thought was yours." The CEO opened his mouth to argue, but no words came. Rahul stood, dropping a few coins on the table. "Think about it. If you want to understand why I did this, really understand, meet me again tomorrow. Same place." And just like that, he walked away, leaving the CEO sitting there, his untouched chai growing cold. The first crack in the wall. The CEO returned to his penthouse, his mind a storm of questions. He should have been furious. He should have called security, lawyers, someone. But he didn't. Instead, he sat by the floor-to-ceiling windows, staring at the city below. For the first time in years, he wondered. What if I'm the one who's wrong? The CEO didn't sleep that night. He paced his penthouse, replaying Rahul's words in his head. "I needed you to feel what it's like to lose something you thought was yours. What kind of man goes to such lengths just to teach a lesson?" By sunrise, he had made up his mind. He needed answers. The second meeting. The chai stall was quieter this time, the morning mist clinging to the streets. Rahul was already there, sipping his tea as if he had been waiting for hours. He didn't look up as the CEO approached. "You came back," Rahul said. "I wasn't sure you would." The CEO sat down, his voice low. "You know things about me. Private things. I want to know how." Rahul finally met his gaze. "Because I was one of them." "One of who?" "The 300 people you fired last month." The words hit like a punch. The CEO stiffened. Rahul didn't look like a former employee, he didn't dress like one, didn't speak like one. "That's impossible," the CEO said. "I'd remember you." Rahul's smile was bitter. "Would you?" "I worked in the warehouse. Loading trucks. 12 years. You've never even seen my face." The CEO's mind raced. He had approved those layoffs. A spreadsheet of numbers, a quick signature. He never met the people behind them. Rahul pulled out an old ID badge and slid it across the table. The photo was faded, but it was him. I wasn't just some worker, Rahul continued. I was the one who stayed late when shipments were behind. The one who trained new hires. And then one day, an email. Position terminated. No warning. No thank you. The CEO's throat tightened. He had done this a dozen times before, cut costs, streamlined operations. It was just business. But now, sitting across from a man whose life he'd upended, it felt different. Why didn't you say anything on the plane? The CEO asked. Would you have listened? Rahul countered. Or would you have called security the second you realized who I was? The CEO had no answer. The truth behind the seat. Rahul took a slow sip of chai. After the layoff, I applied for jobs for months. Nothing. Then, I got a call. A former client of yours, someone who remembered me, offered me a consulting role. Small at first, then bigger projects. Enough to afford that first-class ticket. The CEO frowned. So this was revenge? You wanted to rub it in my face? Rahul shook his head. I wanted you to see me. Really see me. Not as a name on a layoff list, but as a person. He leaned forward. That seat wasn't just a luxury for me. It was proof that I survived what you did. And I wanted you to know that. The CEO stared at his hands. For the first time, he wondered how many other Rahuls were out there, people he'd dismissed without a second thought. What now? He asked quietly. Rahul stood, tossing a few coins on the table. That's up to you. You can walk away, pretend this never happened. Or you can come with me. Where? To see what your decisions really cost. A choice to make. The CEO hesitated. This was dangerous. Rahul could be lying, could be leading him into some kind of trap. But deeper than the fear was something else, guilt. Curiosity. The unsettling feeling that he'd been wrong about a lot of things. 1 hour, the CEO said finally. That's all. Rahul nodded, as if he'd expected nothing less. As they walked away from the tea stall, the CEO realized something terrifying. This wasn't just about a plain seat anymore. It was about to change everything. The CEO followed Rahul through narrow streets he hadn't set foot in for years. The air smelled of diesel and fried food, the sidewalks crowded with people rushing to work. Where are we going? The CEO asked, dodging a speeding bicycle. Rahul didn't slow down. You'll see. They turned into an alley, then stopped in front of a weathered apartment building. Faded paint, rusted railings, clotheslines strung between windows. Rahul pulled out a key. My brother used to live here. 4th floor. The CEO's stomach tightened. Why are we here? The apartment. The elevator was broken, so they climbed the stairs. With each step, the CEO's polished shoes echoed against concrete. Rahul stopped at a scratched blue door and knocked. A woman in her 50s answered, her eyes widening when she saw Rahul, then turning icy when she noticed the CEO behind him. You, she whispered. The CEO froze. He recognized her. Meena. His former head of HR. The one who'd argued fiercely against the layoffs. The one he'd fired when she refused to carry them out. Meena stepped aside wordlessly, letting them in. The apartment was small but spotless. Photos covered the walls, a younger Rahul, a man who looked like him, Meena smiling between them. Rahul touched one frame gently. My brother, Vikram. Worked in your logistics division. 12 years, same as me. The CEO's pulse pounded. He remembered Vikram, not his face, but his name on the termination list. A redundant position. Meena crossed her arms. 3 months after Vikram was fired, he took his own life. The CEO's breath left his body. Rahul's voice was quiet. He couldn't find another job. Couldn't pay rent. The shame broke him. A choked sound escaped the CEO's throat. He'd seen the suicide rate in laid-off workers in studies, always abstract numbers. Never faces. Meena thrust a crumpled letter into his hands. Read it. The CEO unfolded it with shaking fingers. Meena Didi, tell Rahul I'm sorry. Tell him I tried. The words blurred. The CEO's knees threatened to buckle. Rahul took the letter back carefully. I don't blame you for his death. But I blame you for never seeing us as people. The CEO's voice cracked. I didn't know. That's the problem, Meena spat. You never wanted to know. The breaking point. The CEO staggered to the apartment's tiny balcony, gulping air. Below, children played in the street, laughing. Rahul joined him. When I got that first-class ticket, I planned to scream at you. But then I saw how you reacted to losing one luxury. And I realized, you don't need anger. You need to understand. The CEO gripped the railing. His whole life, he'd believed in numbers, efficiency, hard choices. But this? This was unforgivable. He turned to Rahul, tears raw in his eyes. What do I do? For the first time, Rahul looked uncertain. I can't tell you that. But you can start by seeing what you've ignored. Meena appeared in the doorway, holding a tattered ledger. Here. Names. Addresses. Every worker you discarded. Look at them. The CEO took the book like it was on fire. The walk back. They left the apartment in silence. At the street corner, Rahul stopped. This is where I leave you. The CEO panicked. Wait, what now? How do I fix this? Rahul shook his head. That's your journey. But I'll tell you this, Vikram's last wish was for me to forgive you. He paused. I'm not there yet. But I'm trying. And with that, he walked away, vanishing into the crowd. The CEO stood there, clutching the ledger, realizing with terrible clarity. This wasn't just about making amends. It was about becoming a different man. The CEO sat in his office, Meena's ledger open on his desk. Page after page of names, people he'd turned into statistics. His finger stopped at Vikram Kapoor. Logistics. 12 years service. Terminated Q3. His intercom buzzed. Sir, the board is waiting for the quarterly review. He closed the book. Tell them I'll be late. The first step. An hour later, he stood before his stunned executives and dropped a single sheet of paper on the table. I'm reinstating all laid-off warehouse employees. With back pay. Silence. Then chaos. His CFO slammed both hands on the table. Have you lost your mind? That's $18 million. The CEO didn't blink. It's coming from my shares. The board erupted. The backlash. By evening, his phone blew up with calls, investors, analysts, even his ex-wife. News outlets ran headlines, tech giant CEO caves to socialist pressure. His private elevator dinged open to reveal his fiercest critic, retired founder Charles Whitmore, 82 years old and furious. You're burning our legacy, Charles growled. The CEO poured 2 whiskeys. No. I'm saving it. Charles downed his drink in one gulp. Listen, boy. I've seen CEOs with consciences before. They get eaten alive. He stabbed a finger at the window. That Rahul character? He's using you. The CEO's grip tightened on his glass. You investigated him? Charles smirked. Of course. Know what I found? His consulting job? Fake. That client doesn't exist. The whiskey turned to acid in the CEO's throat. The revelation. He found Rahul at the train station, duffel bag in hand. "Who paid for your first-class ticket?" the CEO demanded. Rahul froze. Then sighed. "My brother's life insurance." The CEO recoiled. You used his death money to make you see?" Rahul's eyes glistened. "Yes. Would you have listened any other way?" A train whistle screamed. Rahul hoisted his bag. "I'm leaving town. You got what you wanted, your redemption story. But those workers? They're still screwed. Your board will block you at every turn." The CEO grabbed his arm. "Then help me fix it." Rahul wrenched free. "How? By being your diversity hire? Your guilt mascot?" He stepped onto the train. "Prove this isn't just another PR stunt. Then we'll talk." The doors closed between them. The unsent letter. Back home, the CEO emptied Vikram's file onto his desk. Pay stubs. Performance reviews. Then, a sealed envelope. To CEO's name. Never sent. His hands shook as he unfolded it. "Sir, I know you don't know me. But I've worked nights for 12 years to ship your products on time. Last month, my wife left because I was never home. Now they say I'm redundant. I'm not asking for my job back. I'm asking you to look the next man in the eye when you do this to him." The date was 2 days before Vikram's death. The CEO pressed the paper to his forehead, choking on the truth. Rahul was right. This wasn't about money. It was about looking them in the eye. The CEO stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows of his office, Vikram's unsent letter heavy in his hands. Outside, the first light of dawn crept over the city. He hadn't slept. His phone buzzed, an emergency board meeting in 30 minutes. "They're moving faster than I expected." He straightened his tie, then did something he hadn't done in years. He took the service elevator down to the warehouse. The gates. A crowd had gathered at the employee entrance, not the 300 laid-off workers, but thousands. News vans lined the street. At the front stood Meena, megaphone in hand. "We demand accountability," she shouted. Reporters surged forward as the CEO approached. He expected anger, but the workers' faces showed something worse, disappointment. Then he saw him. Rahul. Not in faded jeans, but in a crisp shirt, standing beside Meena. Their eyes met, and Rahul gave the smallest nod. The CEO took the megaphone. The speech that broke the internet. "I thought reinstating jobs would fix this," his voice echoed across the crowd. "I was wrong." A murmur rippled through the workers. "You don't want charity. You want dignity." He pulled Vikram's letter from his pocket. "This man worked for us for 12 years. I never knew his name until he was gone." Meena's hands flew to her mouth. Rahul's eyes glistened. The CEO tore his company badge in half. "Effective immediately, I'm resigning as CEO, to lead a new worker-owned division. Equal votes. Equal profits. No more layoffs without unanimous consent." The silence was deafening. Then Rahul stepped forward. "Prove it." The CEO extended his hand. "Help me build it." For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then Rahul grasped his hand, and the crowd erupted. The boardroom coup. Inside, the board was already voting to remove him when he entered. Charles Whitmore turned purple. "You can't just." "I already did." The CEO slid his resignation across the table. "But before I go, check your phones." Every device lit up with notifications. Trending, #CEO stands with workers. Breaking, workers occupy 22 warehouses nationwide. Stock plummets 40% in pre-market trading. The youngest board member stood. We'll approve the new division. Charles exploded. Over my dead. Actually, the CEO said quietly, your shares just lost majority control. The workers' pension fund bought them this morning. The room went still. Rahul stepped out of the shadows. With Vikram's life insurance. Turns out guilt isn't the only thing that compounds. 1 year later. The CEO, now just David, stood on a makeshift stage in the very first worker-owned warehouse. Behind him, Rahul and Meena unveiled the new name above the door. Vikram and Sons Logistics. No one noticed when David slipped away. He walked to the loading dock where Vikram once worked, running his fingers over the old time clock still bearing faint scratches from employee badges. A shadow fell across the floor. Rahul held out 2 shipping manifests. Your idea. Your responsibility. He smirked. Hope you remember how to use a hand truck. David took the clipboard, and for the first time in his life, felt the weight of something no money could buy. Real work. Epilogue, the seat. Months later, David boarded a flight, economy class. As he squeezed into the middle seat, the passenger beside him gasped. You're that CEO. The one who gave up everything. David smiled, buckling his seatbelt. Funny thing about everything. Turns out I didn't need most of it. As the plane took off, he opened Rahul's latest text. First shipment arrives Tuesday. Don't screw it up. Outside the window, the sun rose over a city he finally saw, not from a penthouse, but from the ground up.